Welcome back to the Investor Professor podcast. This is Dr. Ryan Peckham, and this is episode 166. Got a great interview for you today. I am joined by Ashley Marx, who is a licensed mortgage broker and was also the broker who helped me purchase my first commercial property, which you'll hear about here in a minute. But we discuss all things mortgages, what you need to know, how to prepare to buy a house, how to prepare your credit, all kinds of things. We had a great conversation, and I am very thankful that she was able to do this with us. I think you're going to gain a lot of valuable insights on real estate and just how the process works. So, as always, get your mind right, and let's get to work. Ashley, welcome to the Investor Professor. How are you?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you coming. This is like a long time coming for us.
It is.
It is. It's weird to see you in person because I've talked to you so much on the phone that you actually see somebody in person. You're like, I know this person's voice, but I actually haven't got to see them. So our circumstances worked out that we were able to actually get in the same room together and record.
I know, crazy.
So for I think we've talked about doing this for over a year.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been nice that our schedules didn't mesh so that we could actually do it in person.
Yep, absolutely.
So for the audience, Ashley is a mortgage expert. So why don't you give us your long, impressive title?
Long and impressive. Okay, that's so funny. I am a licensed mortgage broker with eMortgage Capital and then also assistant division manager at one of the branches there.
Okay. And you also helped me buy a building.
I did.
Which was
Your
awesome.
first commercial building.
Yeah, first commercial building. So we'll get into that. I really want to talk to you about just kind of overall mortgage stuff. We have a lot of young listeners I have a lot of people there in their 20s, former students that are interested in buying a house for the first time. And so I'd like to talk about that first, if that would be okay with you.
Yeah, it sounds great.
Okay. So first off, what are the mistakes that people make as far as like they're not saving enough money? What is like if somebody's 27 years old,
Mm-hmm.
they've been working for a couple years,
Mm-hmm.
what is like the number one thing they should be thinking about? The down payment, the talking to somebody? What do you think?
I think there's like a couple things mainly. Everyone talks about a down payment, but nobody talks about closing costs. So it's really important that you save money for closing costs because even if you have down payment assistance or you get your broker fees for your real estate agent covered by the seller, you're still going to have escrow fees, title fees, usually lender fees that need to be accounted for. And so a lot of the time people aren't paying attention to that. And so I usually tell people that you should save up about $10,000 to $20,000 just as a safety net for closing costs and how they shake out.
But that's an addition, right?
That's in addition to a down payment.
And you also said that some people get down payment assistance.
Some people get down payment assistance. So like you can apply with the county, you can apply through lenders, you can apply through the city. There's so many different programs that have down payment programs that you can get access to. So they all have different rules, different guidelines for each one of them, but it is a way to get help with that big first lump sum, which is the down payment of anywhere from 0 to 5%, usually for a first time home buyer. That is just nice to take a little bit of that off your plate, but that doesn't take into account the closing.
That actually seems lower though, like because most people, I think when they think of a down payment on a house, they're thinking 20% right away, right?
Well, that's like the old school approach, right? Is to do conventional 20% down so you don't have PMI. But right now on a $500,000 house, that is $100K.
Right.
So I don't know about most 20-something-year-olds that have $100K just sitting aside.
No, I agree, but I think that because that is out there, that there's so many that could probably get into a house, that they see that big number and they just like, it freezes them.
Yes. I mean, for sure. Analysis paralysis is very much a
Yeah.
real thing with lack of education.
Right. And I think that they say, oh, I got to have 20% down for a house. And then they look at the 500,000
Yeah.
and they go, well, that's not anywhere in my ballpark, you know?
Yeah.
And they're mad at boomers who were able to buy houses for 2 acorns and a peppermint stick,
Yeah.
you know? And so they're like,
Yeah.
when can I do that? Right. And so they kind of like, you get this, but I think the thing that I think the important point of that, and the reason I don't like it is because I think they think of that 20% and it stops their thinking.
Right.
Like it's like a full stop. It's like, oh, I can't do that. And then they never progress past it, which is why I think it's important, like to have you where it's like, well, okay, well, that's a conventional loan, but there's other things that are out there. That doesn't mean you can't put a plan together and be able to buy a house.
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely where you get into talking to somebody, right? Whether it's somebody like you or somebody like me, getting numbers ran and looking at your overall financial situation and like what can you afford? What do you need to save up for? What are the options available to you? Doing your homework and your research in general and just like seeing the whole picture is so key into setting yourself up for success.
See, you have a great job because you get to like help people make their dreams come true.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to make the payment.
That is true. But I do feel a lot of weight to that, though, in the weight of helping them understand what that monthly payment looks like. So there's a lot of thought and conversation and dialogue on whether people can afford it or not. Like I was working with one of my agents, godsons this past week, and it's really key because he was given a pre-approval for a $450,000 house, and technically, like Freddie and Fannie backed it, but that puts him at 51% DTI on the front end and 51% on the back end, which even though it's approved, like I want to see people at 30 to 40. I don't want to see.
And that DTI is what? Debt to income?
Debt to income.
Right.
I want to see people, if you're making $10,000 gross, I don't want to see you spending more than $3,000 to $4,000 on it versus he qualified at 5,100.
Yeah, and let's spend a little time talking about this. So there's what you can qualify for,
and there's what you should
and then
do.
there's what you can afford.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, like unless you can eat drywall,
right?
But but that's part of what happened. Because when did you first go into the mortgage business?
Back in 2021, roughly, yeah. And so during COVID, actually.
But you remember? Well, I'm older than you, but like. But during like the financial crisis, one of the things is that people or brokers or banks or whoever were allowing people to buy homes. Yeah. Knowing, I mean, they didn't know, but it was pretty close. Like they knew like, okay, this person's going to have trouble keeping this payment up.
Yeah. I mean, there's ethics into it, right? Right. And that is something that our industry has struggled with, which is why there's federal regulation involved and so many rules about what we can and can't do. And so each loan type has different guidelines. Right. And so like something that passes on a VA won't pass on an FHA or a conventional. Yeah. So if he was doing an FHA or conventional, it would catch it and it wouldn't do it. But on a VA, there's more flexibility. And so it's one of those things they're like, just because you can doesn't mean you should. So you have to have a lot of hard conversations with them to set them up for success of recommending differently.
Correct. Yeah. And that goes back to just what we were talking about with you can get approval for a loan or a note or whatever you call it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's going to be the right one for you because, I mean, you could, and then basically you get to where you talk about being house poor. Yeah. And I remember doing an appointment in 2008, 2009 in Plano where these people had a house and I pulled up to the house and I was like, man, this is going to be a good one. I was young. I literally first started my investment career. I'm like, man, this is going to be a good one. I go inside and they had lawn furniture. Yeah. I mean, they literally had lawn chairs, air mattresses, and a picnic table in the middle of this house. And I'm looking at their finances and they're asking me what they should do. And I was like, you need to sell the house. And they're like, they kicked me out. Like they kicked me out, but I was like, but you can't afford the house. You're making but they had no money left over for anything that would go wrong or to make improvements on the house. I think that a lot of homeowners don't realize just the carrying cost that comes with owning a piece of property.
Right. It is. It's a lot. And I think also one of those things to go back with new builds specifically, when they evaluate the taxes on that property, it's on the land, it's not on the actual building. So
Oh,
people don't know that the house is going to get reassessed and they're going to get a hit with another tax bill a year in
yeah. Or
after they
when the
live
neighborhood's
there.
finished, right? Too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's always something that people are just not preparing for.
So when you have those conversations with people, how do they respond to that? Like when you say like this is what you're approved for, but I wouldn't. I mean, when you talk about having those hard conversations, like how does that go?
I mean, for me, it's fine. Like, I think it's appreciated and well received because I'm
That's what I
bringing it
mean. Yeah.
up.
Right.
Yeah, I'm bringing it up where others are not.
Right.
So there's times where people are not coaching them and guiding them, but for me and like my clients, it's always about like what is best for them in the long run and what is going to I'm going to be with them for the rest of their lives. So
Right.
we're going to talk about these different options. I'm not here for just like a one and done transaction.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of people that are. And so
Yeah.
they are not having those conversations.
Yeah, and that makes it tough. It's the same in the investment world. I mean, there's people who maybe their intentions aren't the same. But I do think it is important to have those conversations, especially with somebody who's young, who's looking to buy a home. I mean, when I'm talking to students, I'm like, okay, you're thinking about buying a home, but I'm like, is it going to be a place you're going to be?
Right.
I mean,
Right.
because if you buy a house, like my big mistake, I bought a home, my first home.
Uh-huh.
I sold it a year later
Yeah, not a good
for
idea.
for the same price that I bought it for.
Right.
And I ended up losing all those closing costs and everything you talked about. Like I
Yeah.
took a pretty big loss on that because of all those fees,
Yeah.
and I wasn't in the home long enough.
Yeah, that's very true. Actually, it's one of the first questions I ask people is, what is your plan with this house? Like, how long do you want to be here? How long do you plan to stay? Is this a long-term house? Is this a 5-year house? And when they give me the feedback that they're hoping to just be there for a year, I tell them not to do it.
Yeah.
Mainly because of the fact that there's too much at stake for only a year value. Like if you do it for a year and then you decide to rent it out, okay, so be it. Let's do that. But if it's like, well, I may move here and I might move to this state and then we may move over here, it's like just wait it out till you have
Yeah.
established where you want to go a little bit more, because you are going to lose money if you just pick it up and sell in a year.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And you're not, I mean, in the way that, most, I'm not saying most people don't realize this, but when you look at how you pay off at an amortization schedule, I mean, in the beginning, you're paying mostly interest.
Yes.
So the first year, I mean, a little bit goes to your escrow, but most of the money is going to be interest payments back to the bank.
Yeah. And I mean, there's always a theory that you can, the neighborhood can gain value and your house can
Sure.
go up for sure. But it's a risk. And
Yeah.
so it's one of those things where if you don't have a long-term plan for that property, it's better just to hold it until you have a better long-term plan
Yeah.
figured
And,
out.
and plus, even if the neighborhood goes up, I mean, it has to go up enough past the fees,
Yeah. Which
past all the other stuff that goes with it.
depending on the area, it's doable.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just you need to do your homework. And that's
Yeah.
really it. That's what matters at the end of
Do
the day.
do you have a lot of questions, like, because you work with people from all over the country, right?
Right.
Like every state basically. Do you have them ask you questions like, what do you think is going to happen to real estate in Sheboygan, or or just random places, and you're like, I don't really.
I mean, I can pull reports,
Yeah.
right? And so I can have a pretty good gauge of like what has been happening
Yeah.
and where it's going based on that report, based on the graphs and the trajectories that it's giving me. But at the end of the day, like I'm going to be looking at history versus where it's going to possibly be, because the history tells me a lot more than the
Yeah.
future.
And I guess you can also tell by like just where the applications are coming from. I would think like just parts of the country that like seem to be getting more applications than others.
Yeah, that is like a thought, but I think there's areas that are always going to be improving in value, and then there's areas like right now because of the fires in California, Orange County is going to continue to go up
Right.
in value because there's a shortage of houses now. So it's one of those things where like if I then look at another city, that might not necessarily be
Right. The case.
the case. So it really just matters what's happening to the area and like demand, and if there's constant offers, like multiple offers being put in on houses. So that's always a good indicator too, is when I'm doing a deal for someone, if I'm writing an offer for somebody that's going to have competing against multiple offers, or are they the only
right.
are they the only offer being put in, and has it been sitting for a while? That's
Yeah.
a good indicator as well.
Yeah, I think that's so interesting because the market's constantly, I mean, just like the stock market, it just constantly changes. Like
Yep.
today there's a Fed meeting, which we're recording. We don't know what's like going on, but I think the rates will probably stay the same.
Right.
But that shifts it, if they were to drop rates today, or and if they don't, and how much should people put into, I'll give my opinion and then let you, but like,
Yeah.
let's talk, but like, I know so many people that like, when they drop rates, I'm going to buy a house.
Yeah.
But I'm sitting here on my side going, well, how many people think just like you?
Well,
Like,
yeah.
how many people are thinking, okay, when rates drop, I'm going to go buy a house. But now, because rates are dropped and everybody who said they were going to wait has now going out to buy that house, now you're just in a bidding war. So now you're going to pay more for the house versus what you would have paid on the rate. Like, I feel like the cost is kind of there regardless. So what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, that's exactly what it is. It's more
Okay.
competition. So
Yeah.
if the rate drops, more people qualify, more people are bidding on the house, then more people are spending on the house. So it pretty much ends up evening out. The difference is that if you can afford to buy now with the rates being higher, you should, because you have less competition in the market. You're going to get you're going to get a better value on the house, as well as maybe you'll get seller concessions. But if you are in a competition, you're not getting seller concessions, you're probably going to end up paying your real estate agent fees. You're not going to get that negotiated either. And then they're going to be looking for people to overbid. So then if the appraisal doesn't come in there, you're responsible for that. The lender's not going to cover the delta.
Right.
So those are all things it's more money out of pocket, even if you have a better interest rate, than if you do it with a higher interest rate.
Yeah. And going back to just what you said, that the higher delta. So if you want to buy a house and you're in a bidding war and you bid above what the appraisal comes back at,
right,
you are responsible for the over. So if I pay, let's say I pay $600,000, or I'm saying I want to buy a house for $600,000.
right,
The appraisal comes back for $550,000.
right.
The lender's like, that's fantastic. You get to pay the $50,000 above.
Yeah, you have to
Right?
go back to the table to negotiate.
Okay.
And so usually, like, nobody comes down to what the appraisal comes in at. So if you were in a bidding war and you overbid and it came in at 550, they're either expecting you to honor what you said, bring that cash to close, or maybe they'll meet you in the middle. But they'll never, when there's multiple people on the table, they're not coming down to the 550 because they have so many offers. Somebody else will pay them for it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's so many angles. What interests me about this is that if I was in like every situation you look at, it's a little bit different, which I think makes it fun.
Yeah. It is fun.
Yeah. I mean, because you see the other side too, where before we were talking about there's more people who are retiring today that have a mortgage than any time in history. So then we could get into the prospects of what do you think about, should people pay their mortgage off? Should they not? And I think I know what you're going to say, which is going to be what's their rate and what are the terms and all that kind of stuff. Or what do you think?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's just case by case. I think like everybody's finances at the end of the day are hurting right now in this economy. And so it's really important to just look at your overall health of the budget and how you're running things and talking to someone about it. So if you're living only on Social Security and a little bit of your 401k or annuity or something like that, it's just really not enough these days. So you have to be careful. A lot of people are looking into tapping into equity to like take out a bunch of money to just have it sitting in their bank account so that they can draw on it like a salary, it's like similar to a reverse, but you're still in charge of your finance. You're still in charge of the house after you pass away. So
Excuse me.
A reverse isn't structured like that.
So when you joined like the mortgage business, were you surprised when you started looking at people's finances?
Yes. I was not educated enough before I joined the mortgage industry on like how important it is to understand your finances and retirement but after like looking at 1,400 files at my previous employer, you quickly learn how important it is to have a plan.
But what was like the shock to you?
How little people make.
How little they make, or how little they keep, or both,
Well,
or
both, all of the above, but like how little people get for Social Security, how little people are living off of,
yeah.
just like the retirement stage in general. It was quite a bit of a shock, but it wasn't like statistics and like numbers and people telling me and teaching me. It was me looking file after file after file and seeing a repetitive pattern and just being like,
And
it can't be like this.
And you were thinking like, okay, for their age, they should have accumulated more assets, or just, I
I
don't
think
know,
that the system's broken and
Yeah.
the idea is broken.
of like getting a job, putting
Money away,
Yeah.
retirement, and Social Security, and expecting that to take care of you.
Yeah. I mean, if you do that, you barely keep up with inflation.
It's not.
Barely.
It's not
Actually,
even. It's
it's
not
not
even.
even. Yeah.
It's not even close.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right, because it's like if you look at just how much salaries have not caught up with inflation
Yeah.
since like 2005
Yeah.
now, and I think that's part of the issue that we have with real estate now,
Mm-hmm.
is if you look at like how real estate prices have gone up over the last 20 years versus how salaries have gone up over the last 20 years,
Yeah.
then you double back to what we just talked about as far as like people being able to afford a down payment on a house.
Right.
The math doesn't math.
It doesn't. And I think one of the things too is that like there used to be pensions in place at companies, and pensions don't exist anymore. But pensions are when I look at retirees, the ones that have pensions are the ones that are doing okay.
Yeah.
Or military benefits because they retired and
Yeah.
all the different things. But it's those ones are doing okay. The ones without the pensions, and just 401k, it's just not enough.
And this is like the big experiment. So I've talked about this on the podcast before, but the 401k came out in about 1980.
Mm-hmm.
And so those, retirees that are retiring today are really the first generation to retire off the 401k.
Yeah.
And so this big experiment about who saved, who didn't save,
The corporation saved.
the corporations, because they transferred the responsibility of those retirements to the people.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so many people who are like, I mean, I know I need to save for retirement, but I also need to live today, and they didn't put any money back.
Yeah. I mean, it's a really hard concept. You don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And so until I was learning about people's finances, and it took me seeing file after file after file to choose differently. Right. But like I didn't know before that. And I thought it was like normal. And I was like, well, I just need money for today. I can't afford to think about putting money away.
Yeah. And you've like, one of the things I like about our conversations is that there's a lot of real estate people who just want to do real estate.
Mm-hmm.
And there's investment people like me who just want to do investing.
Mm-hmm.
But like you're always open to have a conversation about stocks and investing, and it's not real estate or investing, it's real estate and investing.
Yeah, and buying businesses. I think that's the other hack these days that you can do to help
It's cash flow.
get your yeah.
It's cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have cash flow coming in.
And you got to be spread out, right? Like
Yeah.
you have to not put all your eggs into one basket.
Well, and that's like all of these things that we've discussed. It's like, should I invest in real estate? Should I pay more on my real estate? Should I maybe, if it's investing stocks or whatever? But not all of them are going to be doing well at the same time. Normally
No.
one is going to offer a more attractive price than others.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, well, what's the smartest decision I can make for these funds that I have right now for my future?
Right.
Is it a piece of real estate? Is it an investment as far as stocks are concerned, or something else like that,
And it shifts all the time, and you have to constantly be re-looking at it. with fresh
Sure.
eyes. And
Yeah.
so you can't just get in the same habit. Well, this is what I've done in the past, so I'm going to
Right.
continue down this avenue.
Yeah.
You have to be thinking about, okay, well, this is the interest rates on real estate right now. This is the interest rates that are happening in the stock market right now.
Yeah.
Which one is a better fit for me? Or should I be putting my cash flow into a business that gives me a better return on investment for both of them?
Yeah. Well, it's just like, I mean, the conversations we had when I was looking to buy that first piece of commercial property, like I really did appreciate like how much guidance you gave me on like the different aspects.
Yeah.
And, because it was like, I mean, I was, the rate is higher because it's commercial. There's different things. And you're like, but look, there's all these different things for my personal situation that kind of I wasn't thinking about because I was just thinking about like the rate, which I think is what a lot of people do.
It's so funny though, because you're thinking in the opposite direction of everybody else. Like everybody else is wanting a rate for low. You wanted the high rate for tax write-off. So, I mean,
Yeah.
which is an important thing to mention too, because like people get upset about the interest rate being as a cost, and they don't see it as a potential like a write-off on their taxes.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's a more complicated situation, but yes. I mean, but it was one of those things too, where like I recognize that property as a thing. And I talked to you about this, but I was like, I got to get this done. Like, this is not going to be here. There was one of those things too, where I was like, I need to be able to, I want to do it smartly, but I also do not want to let this property get away from me because I'm not going to be able to, like, I'm not going to have the chance to do this again. And like, I mean, maybe a different one, but like not that one. I mean, it was more about the location, the property, like all of those things. And so I thought that you did a great job of helping be like, all right, this is, if you want to do it, this is how we're going to need to do it.
Right. Well, I appreciate you trusting me with the process.
Yeah, no, I mean, it helps. Like, it makes it easier when you have somebody that you trust and like is going to give you good advice. It makes the process easier.
Right. But I think what I want to mention too is that when we're talking about the interest rates, just to go back to that for a second, is that like when on your primary, the interest that you pay on your primary
You're talking about your primary house.
Yes, on your primary house.
Right.
Can be used as a deduction on your taxes.
As long as you go above the standard deduction.
Right. So we need to keep that in mind and let people know that is an option. So like it can be scary to have interest rates being higher, but there is a benefit to it as well.
Yeah, that's true. And plus, and they're looking at the tax code, and this could change. I mean, this could literally be out of date in 2 months. But it's just like a couple years ago, right? When they allowed you to be able to write off your property taxes, and then they capped it. At $10,000. So I had clients who were writing off $50,000 in property taxes, and all of a sudden they got capped at 10 grand. And so, I mean, it does, like, a lot of these things are going to be moving pieces.
Yeah.
And which is why they need to be looked at regularly.
Right.
And you have to make the decision based on the information you have at the time, and you make the best decision for you and your family or your situation based on the information that you have available. I think that's one of the things that, like, especially listeners of this or just, people in general, like information is allowed to change because laws change, situations change, rates change.
Yeah.
I mean, we're having this conversation today, but it would have been a completely different conversation had we had it in 2021 before the Fed raised rates.
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, that would have been definitely a different conversation for sure. I mean, it was just like free money at the time.
It is, but think about how much things have changed because, like, think about how many people were doing Airbnbs or all of those. And now those Airbnbs don't look so good at a 6% rate.
No. Well, yeah. I mean, short-term rentals are still making more income over long-term rentals, but long-term rentals are the better investment route.
Right.
As long as you have a good operator and a good expense ratio.
Right.
So each situation is like very different at the end of the day. But that's why it's so important that you have somebody that you trust, that you can talk these ideas out and run problems with.
Exactly.
And, I think my industry has a tendency to just focus on the deal at hand and just writing that deal and not thinking about the bigger picture.
Well, it has to be holistic. You have to see, like, I mean, it is a deal, but you need to see how that deal complements the other things that the person is doing.
Right.
So.
Agreed.
So if somebody's looking to purchase a property or whatever, what's like the steps that they should go in? What's the order that they should go in?
I think at first having a phone call
Okay.
with someone like me and just finding out what your goals are, and then if the goals align and it makes sense, I'll have you fill out an application and I'll look at your soft credit pull and just overall kind of get a plan together of what you can afford. We'll have those discussions. And then if we decide to write a pre-approval, then you send me documents to back that up, as well as I'll run a hard credit and I will run you through the automated underwriting system for Freddie and Fannie just to back the loan to make sure that we do have
Something
approval.
available. Okay.
And then from there, I will usually call the agent, introduce myself to them, and then I usually put a package together and also call the seller's agent to go over any terms on the loan when it's submitted.
I'm going to ask so what's the difference between a soft credit pool and a hard credit pool?
A soft credit pull doesn't affect the score. A hard credit pull does. But as long as you have it, if you have it done once in a 45-day period, anytime your credit gets pulled in that 45-day period. So let's say I pull your credit and then you have another broker pull your credit. We all count as one in that 45-day period. It only happens with mortgages.
Okay.
So it's not like with cars or anything like that.
Yeah.
Every pull matters. But for mortgages, they want you to shop. So
I did not know that.
Post 2008,
Yeah. It's like there's a lot of laws that were they passed a lot of bills, and it's like people are still figuring out what was actually in those bills when they passed it,
Yeah, post 2008, they just really want everybody to know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of transparency for that.
Yeah, it's just like people being able to get a free credit report every year.
Yeah.
Just to see if somebody put something on there that's a mistake or whatever, just to go actually look and see what your credit report looks like, because most people really don't.
Well, that's one of my biggest tips I give clients is to download the Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion apps and put them on the phone and go through your whole file on each one of them and dispute anything that is not yours, whether it's a wrong initial in your name or whether it's a wrong address, to be up on top of it and to always just check in on it. You don't have to pay for memberships to have access to that on all three, but it's so important to know what is happening with it.
It is, and it shouldn't be, but it's so important because if your credit is messed up or your credit is low for whatever reason, there's so many things in your life that are more expensive.
Yes, that is so true.
I mean, your car insurance, your everything. Yeah. And so just a little bit of diligence of going in there and looking, because there are you have to think about how many social security numbers are out there, how many names are the same.
Right.
And I have seen numerous times, students or otherwise, where it's just something that was just a mistake that they have no idea that is the reason that a simple phone call, email, whatever gets it removed. But that's the reason that they've had issues of not being able to get their report up is because of that one item that they just didn't even realize was there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I have notifications, so it comes through my phone because I am like a hawk.
Right, yeah.
But it's it was a learned skill. It wasn't something that I just knew from growing up, you know? And so now
it's those 1,400 files you look through.
Exactly. And so you just learn the tricks of the trade, right? And so it's so important to be educated about your own situation and how to dispute and how to handle any of the issues that come up.
Because I think if you have a dispute, they have to be able to provide you proof that it should be on.
Within 30 days.
Within 30 days, okay.
If not, it comes off.
Oh, wow, okay.
So it's very important. And there's companies that you go to, they can pay, you can pay to do all this stuff for you, but it's also pretty easy to just do it yourself.
There's also, I know you can pay other companies to do it, but there's also a piece of it that's there's a lot of learning involved in starting to handle this by yourself. So you learn a lot, probably disputing it yourself and trying to just kind of just taking ownership, basically.
But I think there's analysis paralysis with it. Is it feels so overwhelming you don't even know where to get started.
That's true.
So where you get started is you first download all three apps, and you sign up for the free account, and you look at each file and you see what is on there that's not yours and what's not, and then you hit the dispute button.
Okay,
that's where you start.
Okay,
and then check it semi-regularly.
Okay,
once a quarter at least.
Okay. Well, I think this has been wonderful.
Yeah.
We're going to put all of your stuff so people can contact you, and you can sell them nice, big houses and buildings, and then you don't have to make the payment, but it's very helpful.
Yeah. I mean, I think at the end of the day, I prefer that people just be educated on their finances. And
Yeah.
it's good, like, I'm here to help review them with them
Right.
and to see what is in their budget, what is not in their budget, and let's set them up for success to make smart decisions.
Yeah, and it's nice too. Like, I mean, this is very beneficial because people can get things situated, like have things in order before they contact you,
Yeah.
where they have like things ready to go,
I
and then it
mean,
makes it easier.
for me, I don't care how put together or not put together
Yeah.
it is. Just send it in and I will go through it all with you.
Okay, perfect.
You know, so sometimes that's like my role is like just getting in there and seeing all the things and seeing where everything stands so I can see the bigger
The
picture.
bigger picture.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, that sounds good. Well, thank you again for joining us today.
Yes, thanks for having me. Hope we can do it again sometime.
Yes. Oh, it's our favorite time. It's disclosure time. This podcast contains general information that may not be suitable for everyone. The information contained here should not be construed as personalized investment advice. There is no guarantee that the views and opinions expressed in this podcast will come to pass. Investing in the stock market involves gains and losses and may not be suitable for all investors. Information presented here is subject to change without notice and should not be considered as a solicitation to buy or sell any security. Rydar Equities Incorporated does not offer legal or tax advice. Please consult the appropriate professional regarding your individual circumstances. Past performance is no guarantee of future results.